All right, welcome back. Today we are going to look at the responsibility conversation. So the responsibility conversation almost becomes like unconscious. There's a flow to it. So when there is two or more people engaged, in an activity or in a group, the communication is very responsive and very, well, there you go, responsibility. It's very responsive and there's a mutuality to it. So after alignment happens within the dissension phase, responsibility is engagement. So when you're in a responsibility conversation, you can ask yourself, do I feel engaged? Does the other person feel engaged? If there does not seem to be engagement, take a step back. Was everybody's emotions acknowledged during the dissension phase? Was there some truth that was revealed? If the emotions were not revealed or discussed, take another step back to the invitation conversation. What was the invitation? What was everybody thinking? If that point didn't even come up, if there was not an invitation, take a step back to the possibility conversation. What were all the possibilities explored, and was there a general consensus on which invitation to take? So the responsibility conversation comes right before action or commitment, and after dissension. So so this is where things really where action starts to happen. So the first thing I ask is, what is time banking? So time banking has been around for a very long time. I am involved in two time banking organizations, timebanks.org, where I am on the board member of the Phoenixville Time Bank, and also ourworld.org, where I launched the Karmic Margin Call project. So time banking is this idea that our time is an asset, that time has value, that time, that when we get away from the socioeconomic construct, everybody's hour is worth the same as everyone else's hour. So we exchange what we call time dollars, where, I'll spend 1 hour, helping you move, and then I have an hour that I can spend on something. So I might get, I might get a massage, or someone else in the time bank might teach me how to, sculpt or whatever. Somebody might watch my kids, so that's a service hour paid, for babysitting, and then they can go and use that hour, for whatever they want with any other time bank member, and receive a service. So it's kind of like this idea of pay it forward. So when we go into the last part of this presentation, I'm going to show what the universal value of an hour really is, and that's what's imposed on us by governments, by corporate, by hierarchy, structures, and what we might start entertaining changing the value of an hour to, so that we can change the macrocosm, as it were. And then, what is equal partnership? Equal partnership is this acknowledgement that everyone really does have value. That regardless of my education, my beliefs, my background, my value is the same as someone who might have a different background, different education, different experiences. So the time banking relationship helps us to really start to see, we may be different, but our value really is equal, and that we can partner up and complement each other's strengths and opportunities. So that's what equal partnership is. In this conversation, we also look at, what is the nature of the relationship. My friend Ashley Guerin from WINfinity, kind of describes it as joint ventures, strategic alliances, and partnerships. So when you're first starting to have this conversation with someone, and you're starting to, create maybe an event or something that you're going to be working with each other with, we call that a joint venture. It's kind of like dating. And you go on a few dates, you launch a few joint ventures, say this feels fun, let's go steady. So that's more like a strategic alliance. So after some time in strategic alliance land, you find that you've grown together. Then it's the time to propose marriage, and that's what a partnership is. That's where I'm going to quote Trey directly here. That's where you're sharing bank accounts and you're revealing each other's skeletons in the closet. So these conversations from appreciation all the way up through responsibility and commitment are intended to help all parties involved go from the joint venture, the strategic alliance, to the partnership phase. And that's not a matter of really upscaling or trying to get a lot of people interested, in what you're doing. It's about just deepening the relationships and appreciating the relationships you have so that you can nurture them around all 6 conversations, from appreciation to possibility to invitation, dissension, responsibility, and commitment. So the history that I want to talk about in this section is my history with the Phoenixville Time Bank. I had joined them in September of 2019 and joined the board in October of that year, October 2019. So I've been serving on the board for over 2 years, and I had recently wrote them a charter for a development committee. So I'm not going to really go into who's on that board because I'm going to be honest. This is something I'm doing, in concert with some of the other projects that I have mentioned. There's resistance, on the board about entertaining these ideas about how do we mix the nonprofit world, with the for-profit world and find common ground. There's a little bit of resistance to that. So I'm not going to mention the people on the board out of respect for them. And also because this is I wouldn't say this is contentious material. It is something that there is a deeper conversation waiting to happen on the board. It just hasn't happened yet. So, so I do want to mention that. So, what did happen back in October of this year, of 2021, is the board had a retreat, and I facilitated part of that retreat, and we came up with intentions and goals that we wanted to see happen. One was we wanted to increase board activity and increase leadership activity. So that's one of the reasons why I'm stepping forward with this presentation as well. Another one was implementing time banking into everyday life, and for that to happen first on a local scale and then on a large scale. I think that has to do with regenerative economies, looking at, what is a regenerative economy? How do we start implementing it? Social aspects. The board really wanted to get back to the social aspects of time banking. And I think the way to do that is to start looking at, well, what do we value? What do we value in our community? What do we value in our friendships? What do we value as why do we value time banking? What are the values that come out? I think that's what comes out in from the social aspects. And let me look at and a mentorship program. So to me, a mentorship program is not about some person coming in with all this experience who has all the answers. I think a mentorship program is everybody recognizing that we all have a piece to the puzzle and having more intelligent, deeper conversations, to develop each other. So to me, a mentor is an equal partner. It's not some guru that's above all of us looking down. So so that was some of the takeaways from this from this retreat that we had in October, and how in my own way I would like to advance those goals through this presentation, through my efforts with the Karmic Margin Call project as well. Another thing that came out of that is that just looking at the sheer number of nonprofit initiatives that are going on in our local area, in our national, nationally, and what's going on globally. One of the things that I think is a great opportunity for some people, it's a major concern. It's a heartache. It's a burden. But there's this competitiveness even between nonprofits for funding, for attention, for people's time. And I just don't think that's necessary. When we're in a collaborative environment, nonprofits should be working together and and growing together. So what I found out was that there's 40,000, 40, that's four and four zeros, 40,000 nonprofits just in our Philadelphia area. In the United States, there's 1.6 million nonprofits. So there are millions of initiatives that are very worthy, that are very that are very viable, but a lot of them die out because they're competing for funding from the government. They're competing for funding from from the philanthropists. And I'm here to say that I just don't think that competition is necessary anymore. When you look at time banking and you look at how we can reassign value to time, to an hour, it just makes sense, for nonprofits to start having deeper conversations and coordinating. So the value that I want to talk about is that time is an asset. A little bit later in this presentation, I'm going to show you how time has been devalued. And I'm going to put forth the invitation of reassigning, the value of that hour, of that time. So, we can spend that time in competition, or we can spend that time in collaboration. So time is the asset. It can be the most valuable asset we have. It can be worth more than gold. It can be worth more than land. It can be worth more than data. It can be worth more than fuel. So that's what we're going to be looking at later on. And the value that we really want to emphasize is that we are values driven. When the focus is on an object, or the focus is on a goal, or the focus is on an outcome, the relationships suffer. But when it's values driven, and that was one of the things that I mentioned at the top of the presentation, values driven puts us back into a relationship with each other. So the value here is values driven, identifying values, acting out in accordance to values, honoring values, listening for values. So this is a very much a values driven initiative that we really want to be able to listen to each other and find out what we value and how can we honor that. So the responsibility that I'm taking is having this conversation, doing this presentation. So in 2022, I'm going to be personally reaching out to other nonprofits, first in the Phoenixville area, but also in the greater Philadelphia area. I moved to Bucks County back in September, so I'm looking to have these conversations also in my residence of Bucks County, continuing it in Montgomery and Chester counties and in Philadelphia. It's not just limited there as well, though, too, because this is going to be going out on YouTube. I'm going to be sharing it with the time banks all over the world. We're going to be starting conversations with our transition initiative, so they have a global presence as well. So so I'm taking my first step in having that conversation and taking responsibility for that, and that will conclude my offering for today. And I'll be back tomorrow once again for the commitment conversation.